Hey guys, Mike here. So what another extremely volatile day in the market you might have noticed, and we had some really, I guess, shocking economic data come out, which I think caught the market off guard and caught a lot of people off guard. Again, let me know in the comments when we get to it if you were caught off guard. And of course, we got to talk about Tesla for sure, so we'll go into some very important stuff about that. Another stock, which the CEO, he promised shock, and boy, did we get shock around 12:30 today as well. And then something you're starting to see with a lot of these stocks right now with coming into earnings, which I personally can't stand to see it, especially if you own the stock, because it usually never ends well, as we're starting to see with some of these stocks. But, you know, looking at GDP, I mean, did that surprise you? There it is, 3.3, way above expectations, 3.3. And again, you can see where it's been coming from 2022 to 2023. And again, you just want above 2%, and that's where it's been, right? And a lot of people are going to say it's government spending, other things like that. That could definitely be the case. You know, when you look at the forecast, again, it's way down there. It's like 1%, getting down to like 0.5% they're projecting here when it comes to like first, second, third quarter in there, and then a pump up in the fourth. That's a big drop. We'll have to see what's going on. Another thing I found interesting was the flows in and out of ETFs, which I'd like to share with you guys. This came out Tuesday. And you can see negative flows coming out in large cap, mid cap, small caps, and the money rotating over into where? Some type of bond, right? Whether it's investment grade, high yield, basically investment grade bonds for sure. And of course, also rolling out of municipals, things of that nature, but mostly just flowing out of the higher tech, going into bonds because, you know, a lot of these large caps, people worry about the small caps, people worried about, and a lot of this probably has to do really with people worry about recession and uninverted yield curve, things like that. So they're parking their money in these instead to keep it safe. And one thing to watch out very closely here is going to be the dollar, right? This is going to be key because it's just stuck right there between the 50 and that 200, still at that support level. Again, are we going to move up, which some people are saying, into this fair value gap, which will put pressure on stocks and things like that, and then sell back down? Is that going to be it? Or does this thing finally take a flush to the downside? That's what we got to keep in mind. Again, moving up is not good for stocks. Moving down would actually help the stocks even more. Now, something important to see what's going on when it comes to the S&P and IWM. And guys, before we continue, if you can please hit that like button, that little thumbs up down there, helps people find the video, helps out the channel. And if you like down-to-earth content, talking about the financial markets, don't try to talk over your head, then think about subscribing. And when it comes to the S&P, obviously, you know, it went up to like all-time new highs again today. Air's thin up there, right? And we'll see if this, you know, bearish divergence plays out. The last couple of times we've seen any kind of divergence, you saw right here, it was bullish divergence, right? So it was selling down, and you had bullish divergence there on the RSI, and it ended up popping up, right? It ended up working out pretty well for the market. And then, you know, you come over the last time we saw bearish divergence, and what happened? We end up selling down, obviously. And so that's what we got to see if it plays out again. This can take time, right? And I think a lot of people, what's happening right now, all you're seeing is liquidity grabs, right? Because when you get to all-time highs, it's like you need buyers to keep going, right? So how do you get them? You come back down, you grab liquidity at some lower level, whether it's a prior day's low, prior week's low, whatever, and then move it back up, right? Break a prior day's high again, move back down. That's kind of what you're seeing. So we'll see, you know, if this plays down eventually. I mean, it will. There's no doubt in my mind, probably it will. But again, that can take time. It don't have to be a big move now, all right? It don't have to be like the last time. Now, when it comes to IWM, you can see it just consolidating right there in a very tight range over the last 4 days right here. A lot of support below, whether it's all these, you know, anchored VWAPs, the 100, the 200, the 50 moving average. So if it breaks that level, whoo boy, I mean, that's going to be a massive drop. There's a lot of pressure on the market, okay? So just keep those, I mean, anywhere from like 183 to 193, somewhere in that range. Are we going to get the bullish MACD crawls? You can see, you know, buyers and sellers are kind of just sitting there, right? Going, okay, what's happening here? What are we doing? And, you know, not really much of a decision made up here. Will we get the momentum swing to push back up? Or will it just trade sideways, which really is not a bad thing, right? You get consolidation, you get some support built out right there. And so when we look at the 5-day moving average, just for kicks, you want this pointing up, but you can see right here, it's just going sideways right now, really, but it's on top of it, which is good, all right? When it's angling up and it's above, market's moving up. When it drops below the 5-day and it turns down, obviously we're heading down. So a lot of people like to look at this one. So right now, still undecided which way it wants to go. Now, when it comes to Tesla, you had a couple warnings from Elon Musk. One was 2024 growth, which nobody likes to hear, right? The other one's going to be margins. And then this one, I think, surprised everybody when he came on the call and talked about Chinese EVs. I didn't even expect him to say this.
Elon Musk had this warning about Chinese automakers during the call last night.
The Chinese car companies are the most competitive car companies in the world. I think they will have significant success outside of China, depending on what kind of tariffs or trade barriers are established. Frankly, I think if there are not trade barriers established, they will pretty much demolish most other car companies in the world. So they're extremely good.
And I'll be honest, I'm not sure if he's just sucking up to China or whatever. I mean, I can see them being competitive in their own country, but I mean, maybe they'll be competitive here. I don't really see it, but let me know what you think about that in the comments. But of course, that doesn't, people who are shareholders are like, what? And of course, a bunch of selling taking place, right? But of course, as we look at this chart, even on the way down, like I was telling the members, it's like something falling in a tree, and it just hits every branch on the way down because what does Tesla have that most stocks don't have? A huge following in retail, right? Very loyal. And so they're just buying at every single support. Boom, 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 and trying to hold it up, then it would drop some more, and they'd hold it up, and it would drop some more, and they would hold it up, and it would drop some more, right? And so, and then of course, you probably got people, a lot of people are rolling out those puts they sold. Some people are getting a sign, depending on what the date was, of course, but that's another thing happening. So, the big question when you look at the chart is, what does it do? And I just told members in the video about this. Like, when you're looking at this, when it gaps down on earnings, what you're looking for is to see when this thing actually can bottom. And normally it takes some time. It takes a few days usually. Now, does that mean there won't be a V-shaped recovery this time? Could be, just because of one factor. But when you look at it, mostly 5 to 10 days, somewhere in there, if it's going to get that bounce and start to recover, you'll get the pops, you're going to get the drops, all that good stuff. It's really looking at that RSI, though, and seeing where it's at on these things. And when you look now, you see, man, that thing is so oversold. Like, I zoomed out, going back to 2020. There was only one time it was this oversold, and it's when it went to, I think, 103, I think it was that date. Yeah, that's it. Went to 103. And so, again, things kick in when you get this oversold. Does that mean, obviously, a permanent bounce? Absolutely not. You can see multiple times where it's bounced like that and then just sold off more. But, a short-term bounce would make sense because it's so oversold for sure. But, when you look at it from level-wise, it got the key level and it got like 182, I think it closed. But if it breaks like, 177, man, because that's where the golden pocket fib is. That's where support is for that volume right there. And you can see that big volume gap that goes down like 155. So, we'll see what happens on that one if the dip buyers come in full force and big money starts rolling in. And I'll show you something that big money was doing today, as a matter of fact. And just to put this out there, we look at the revenues. Obviously, it did increase year over year, as you can see. There's the visual for it. Cash and debt, better than it's ever been for sure. Debt rose a little bit, but when you compare it back, whatever, 2021, 2022. But look at the cash and, the securities and stuff. Better than ever been right there. But one thing you saw was some whales were doing was they were buying call sweeps going out to July 19th, the 250s, 260s, and, roughly a little over 2 million. Actually, I'm sorry, not 2 million, 2.7 million. And so, again, that, no surprise there. And so it looks like they're trying to benefit from more of the next quarter that gets reported. And so we'll see how that one plays out. Now, one thing that made me laugh, and I hope you got a laugh out of it, when I saw this was, the PayPal CEO promises shock and everything on this event coming up for the stock. And you can see he definitely got his shock because 1230 hit and that thing absolutely plummeted. And shouldn't be too much of a surprise. Here's what I said on Tuesday about this stock. And understand, you could see this is what happened with PayPal here. It has this innovation thing coming up, and it's on Thursday, January 25th, this week right here. And obviously this has some big green candles. So we're going to see if they continue to push this up, and this becomes a sell the news event we've seen so many times on like Tesla, Cyber Days, and all these other different stocks and stuff. And that's exactly what happened, right? The sell the news event. And what's funny, you can tell this is big money playing around here. This is not retail. Look at that volume, right? When they were spiking this up. It was weird, right? Because why are we getting spiked up so hard going through these, resistance levels like a hot knife through butter? Okay. And I thought, okay, well, maybe they're going to run something to the event, but then they didn't. They started selling off before the event. And just look at the volume bars down there, right? And they don't report earnings, I believe, what is it, February? And so, again, that's what made this kind of surprising. But you can see, the volume profile shows where it should stop. Obviously, it stopped at the 100-day moving average, if I'm not mistaken, right there. And so again, it was kind of a fishy thing to see, but now it's going to try to work its way back up through that really hard resistance level there, anywhere from like $60 to $64. And so we'll see if it can do that or not. Again, they may just wait around to earnings. So I just thought that was really fishy. Let me know what you think down in the comments. But that's just big money having fun right there is what that was. Now, AMD, what I'm looking for in AMD is very simple. Who knows where this one's going because it's on the AI hype train, right? The semiconductors have been on fire. But eventually, gravity takes effect, and eventually the rubber band effect takes place. The rubber band effect kicks in, okay? The rubber band is these moving averages, right? And it can stretch all it wants away from it, but they always come back down to them, okay? Now, when that's going to happen, we got to see. As you can see, it's not stretched so far above its 200-moving average as it was in 2021, right? It is farther above its 50 than it was back then. And so eventually this definitely has to come back down. And, you can see the support levels right there kind of marked out. And so that's really what I want to see because they got earnings coming up, was this Tuesday the 30th, so next week. And so they reported great earnings last time. The question is, what's it going to look like this time, obviously. But, when you look and we kind of scroll over and look at NVDA, and you can see, obviously lately it's been going straight up. But even when it started going this parabolic move, eventually it started doing what? The moving averages caught back up. It started bouncing off the moving averages, started respecting the moving averages again, and then went for another parabolic move on another earnings call. And then when we go back to AMD, you can see this one right here, even on that run up it did from 2019 all the way to 2021, like it eventually gets to the point where it will respect those moving averages, right? The 50, the 100, and the 200. It was a beautiful thing watching it move up there. Eventually that's what's going to happen. Then you went on this parabolic run, and it was like a 3-month deal where it just pushed up and shoved up. But again, rubber bands always snap back. And so we'll see, what happens. Again, I like the fact that it took that old all-time high and it turned it into support. So it definitely has support built out, not too far down the branches of the tree. And so I'm just waiting to see what happens. And again, will it make, earnings is going to tell everything, right? It better report a crazy earnings since it's running up into earnings. And speaking of run up into earnings, here's Google, all-time high right here, as you can see, finally. Took a long time. This is not a high flyer, obviously. It has earnings coming up on Tuesday as well. And I personally can't stand when stocks run up into earnings like this because it means a lot of stuff is priced in. They have to hang the moon on earnings to maintain this. So let's see what happens. Usually, let's see if we get to 155-ish, somewhere in there before that. And if they do, most likely, unless they just crush earnings, you could definitely see this one selling back down for sure. We've seen it many times. But, again, it's the AI hype. Maybe they'll talk about AI a whole bunch. Look at the moving averages. It's been, touching its moving averages on the way up. Everything's turned up. It's in a high flyer, like, some of the semiconductor and stuff like that. So the moves up and down are, much less volatile for sure. But if it does happen to start moving back down, definitely keep an eye on certain levels right here. We'll pull up our volume profile. Around 145, if that don't hold, around 137, and then a really good one is going to be right around 132. If, obviously it's a sell, the news event on the earnings call come Tuesday, they continue to run this one up. Now, when you look at earnings, speaking of, you will have American Express, and then you'll have a whole bunch of others that nobody really cares about coming out on Friday, and then next week's going to be the real fun. I'll go over that in Sunday's video. It's going to be loaded with the big boys. Now, as far as what you're going to do with economic data, obviously you got core PCE, personal income, spending, and pending home sales, which people actually will care about. And the 3 big ones are going to be the core PCE, personal sales, and spending. And so that'll come out before the market opens up. The day was weird because we had news at 8:30, 10, 11, 1, which, by the way, that bond auction, even though it's funny, the bond auction went off, the interest rates went down, the yields went down, and the market went down with it. So it was just weird. So maybe on bond auctions, if the market is just raging like a lunatic and yields are dropping hard and the auction don't go well, that's when you get the reversal. How about that? Because the yields were red all day as the market went up in the morning and then sold off even before the bond auction for sure. So it's kind of a strange day, but a volatile day because, again, it's just trying to find liquidity to fill orders, right? To keep this train trying to keep moving up, right? That's kind of the name of the game. So anyway, Hope you guys got some out of it. Let me know how your day was. Please hit that like and subscribe button. Appreciate all you guys who watch and share the videos. Have a great night, and I'll see you tomorrow to wrap up the week. And please put your questions at the bottom. I'm going to start putting together Saturday's video. All right, so have a good one.